Hi, Facebook friends. Helen Archontou here, CEO of the YWCA of Northern New Jersey. Happy Thursday. It is afternoon. Normally we're usually live in the morning, but we're excited to spend time with you today, no matter when it is. And as you know, for those of you that are regular viewers of YWTV, Thursday is the day that we share the mic now and we amplify the voices of Black women in our community. So we're so excited today to have another wonderful conversation set up for you, and I'm grateful to have Jahari Jacobs with us to be part of that. Welcome, Jahari.
Hi.
So Jahari was actually scheduled to be with us during Earth Week. She was scheduled to be with us at Thursday, but as we know, that also happened to be the week that the Derek Chauvin verdict came out, and Jahari was very understanding, and we're so grateful that she was able to reschedule with us to today. And we had Assemblywoman Shavonda Sumter on to talk about the verdict, and which was really important, to do timely, right at that moment. So we're so grateful for your flexibility, but we are still so excited to share your story and our conversation. But for our viewers, let me tell you a little bit about Jahari. She is currently a middle school science teacher for 15 years at the Elizabeth Public Schools. She was recently named New Jersey Agriculture. She was recently named New Jersey Agriculture in the Classroom Teacher of the Year for 2021 and considers this a great accomplishment, as she should. Jahari also runs a garden consulting business called Thyme After Thyme New Jersey. Get it? THYME. And that provides local residents with assistance for their home and their school gardens. She grows organic vegetable seedlings for her clients to be used in their garden space. She really enjoys being outside in nature with her husband and her 2 daughters. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having me so much. Very excited.
Well, I have to say, I love the name of your business. First of all, very smart, very, very smart. And for those of you watching, we have the links here to Jahari's website so that you can check out Thyme After Thyme, and also encourage you to go to her Instagram page and follow her, and her Facebook page and follow her, so you can stay connected with all the exciting green things that she's doing. So tell us a little bit about, let's start with, you're a teacher.
Yes.
And then you have this business. So tell us about your teaching career, and I guess what came first? Let me ask that.
Right. So teaching came first. So a little background, I am an 8th grade science teacher. I've been teaching 8th grade science, or really just middle school science now, for 15 years in Elizabeth. And I absolutely love it. I love working with my 8th graders, and I love being able to expose them to new things. It's a wonderful age. I know that there are people that say like 8th grade, oh my goodness, but I absolutely love that age. So I started off teaching my middle school students, and we received a grant for our school for a garden. And initially, there was someone who was running the garden, and I just kind of segued with an elective program that I was doing. It's called TCR Foodies. We do have an Instagram as well. And it initially started off with us growing things and kind of it being a farm to table kind of elective, where students would grow the vegetables in the school and then take those vegetables and then cook with them in my classroom. So I was able to receive equipment to do that kind of thing. And I've been running the school garden now for 5 years. And that just kind of segued into my business, because my business has been active now for 2 years, and it actually started during the pandemic. So with us all being home, I was going to Home Depot, like lots of people, just trying to get their houses together. And one project that I really wanted to kind of get off the ground was my own home garden. And as I was going to Home Depot and I was looking in the vegetable aisle of, the vegetable seedlings, there wasn't really a lot of variety. So first of all, it was overpriced. And then it was like the same old tomatoes, the same old peppers, like really boring things, or at least I consider them boring. And I knew that there were lots of different options out there for seeds. And, there were so many people that were getting excited about gardening, people that would come to me saying, could you help me? And so I said, you know what, let me just try growing some seedlings in my own home. And so it started off where I was growing different varieties of tomatoes and peppers and eggplants and broccolis. And it just kind of segued into me doing garden consulting. And so what I do now is provide consulting to everyone. If you have an apartment, you can have a garden. If you've got acreage, you can have a garden. And so my business taps into homes and people that really just have no idea how to garden, or you might have a space and you don't really know how to use it, or you have kind of an apartment building and you don't really know the best kind of pots to use or locations to place your plants. And so that's where my garden consulting comes in. I consider myself like a garden coach. So I create plans for people's yards or their decks or their patios, and I can come in and either install it for you, or I can create a virtual plan for you. And that's pretty much kind of what I do. So that is essentially Thyme After Thyme. We either go to homes and install the gardens, or I will create the plan for you so you don't have to worry about, okay, when's the best time to plant peppers, or when's the best time to, start my corn, or, how can I prevent the squirrels from eating all my vegetables? So that's where I come in, and that's essentially what we do.
I love that, because I think there's so many of us that feel like we want to do gardens, but we get a little overwhelmed with the thought of how to set them up and all the pieces, because again, it may not be something we've ever done before, but you feel like maybe once it's set up, you can maintain it.
Right. So I kind of lay the foundation and educate my clients on what to do and when to do it. And then once I set the foundation, they will, take it upon themselves to continue on. So I love it because it's kind of like you have this fresh slate of excitement, and I'm just kind of there to tap into that.
That's amazing. So let me ask, before I talk more about your business, so many questions pop into my head. One is, you're a woman in science.
I am, which is very rare in itself.
It's rare, right? Which is rare. How did you end up there? Like, what was your path into science? Because I know that, we know statistically that those numbers are low. So you definitely are groundbreaking, right there.
Definitely. So it's funny, my mom always kind of teases me because when I was going to college, I initially wanted to be an artist. And she said, that's great, but you really need to be represented in the science field. Like, I've always been very good with science and math, and just enjoyed it, but I never really thought I could do anything with it. Like, I didn't want to be a doctor. I knew I didn't want to go in that medical field. And I can really give props to my mom, who's probably watching, for helping me, really encouraging me to continue on with this journey of science. Because to be very frank, in terms of all of the science courses that I took, I was one of maybe 3 African American, especially women, that were taking these courses and continuing on, and even going into the classroom to be a science teacher or being in the science field. So I knew that the bigger picture was bigger than what I was kind of difficulties that I was having currently, because the classes work was not easy, and I definitely could have taken the easier route and gone the artistic approach. And I just kind of decided that this is what I wanted to do. This is the role model that I wanted to be. And I knew that there were other children that looked like me that were not in that field, that I wanted to encourage to get into science, get into agriculture, get into mathematics, just all of those STEM careers. I knew that that representation was needed. And so I looked at the big picture, and that's what led me to be a science teacher.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, again, statistically, women, and then being a Black woman on top of that,
Right.
statistically, the numbers are obviously even lower. And science is one thing, but then agriculture is even more
even it's even lower. It's even lower. So I knew that in Bergen County there is no company that exists like me, and then in New Jersey there are companies that exist like me, but very, very few of them are Black. And even farms in New Jersey, So there is a website. It's called Black Farmers Index. And if you go to that website and you look up New Jersey, there's 6. So my dream, once I retire from this teaching, is to own a farm. I want to be able to provide for my community, and I want to provide that representation for my own daughters and for little girls and boys. Really, just that you can become a farmer, you can go into agriculture. That representation will be there in terms of the disparities between men and women. I mean, I know that it's a lot of manual labor, and that's probably part of the reason in terms of why those numbers, why there is such a huge gap. But it can happen. Like I'm down for it, and I told my husband the other day, that is my goal, to own a farm, to be able to grow my own crops, to be able to have people come and visit my farm and pick apples or vegetables or, do community work. That is my ultimate dream and goal. So fingers crossed we can make it happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've come this far, and I believe that you, can continue on that dream for sure. Why do you, obviously we know that there's systemic racism, embedded in every area, every profession, every area, specifically when you look at agriculture and when you look at, I should say more specifically agriculture or science as a whole. What have you experienced in terms of, I mean, obviously the numbers are low, but what have you experienced that you think is really keeping our Black communities and our communities of color from embracing doing this type of work and, following this path?
Well, if we just look at the numbers in terms of the decline of how many farmers there was, like in the early 1920s, there were close to 1 million farmers. And now in 2021, there are 44,000 African American farmers in the United States. And those numbers have decreased drastically due to disparities in terms of the amount of funding that's provided by organizations and companies. When they find out that you are African American, there may not be as much of a drive to provide you with the funding. So really, funding and resources, we see that gap in terms of what's allowed and what we see is exposed for Black Americans as opposed to our white counterparts, and definitely now women. I mean, if we look at Black farmers, and then if we look at the percentage of women in total make up 7% of farms in the United States, and Black women make up 2%. So we are like completely marginalized in terms of where we are showing up. So it was really important for me to have this organization, have this business where I can show that, Black Americans, we do farm. We do historically speaking, that is what runs in our blood. We come from a space where we are farmers. We are used to getting our hands dirty, being in the soil. Even my grandfather, my great grandfather, who were raised in South Carolina, like this is kind of historically our roots and where we came from. So it just kind of feels like for me, second nature. Like I love being outside, being exposed, and then just having control over your food. I mean, yes, going to the grocery store is a convenience, but I can right now go outside and make myself a salad and not depend on, ShopRite to be able to provide me with food. And that alone is empowering. That for me is enough drive to be able to grow my own food and to be able to provide for my family. Like that enough is really all I need. So I find that growing food yourself is empowering. And I hope to encourage others really just to see that power that they can control what you're eating, what you're consuming. And then that in turn will help our community to become healthier. Because again, as we know, statistically, African Americans are dying from diabetes, from high blood pressure at alarming rates. And so having control over that, I think is important. I hope that.
Well, and I think, what you said is so important just now is there's that connection of the, what we know in terms of the health disparities. We know what the numbers in terms of what, Black and African American individuals, the health issues that they're dealing with. But, making that link to healthy food and access to healthy food, right? I mean, we know that, buying, healthy food is expensive.
It is.
And that creates a barrier unto its own. And then going back and then seeing those links, that's where we connect the dots in terms of systemic racism as well, and how layered how layered this issue is, for those of you watching, when we're trying to, as we know, that's what Share the Mic now is about too, is kind of amplifying and making those connections for people. I mean, you just made that for us, so eloquently about talking about the layers of this. But that being able to grow your own food is one of the ways to be able to make it more accessible.
And if I can just say something else, even the area that I teach in Elizabeth, if you walk around that neighborhood and around that school, there's no access to vegetables. There's access to chips, there's access to soda. But if I wanted to get an apple or spinach or a banana, I have to drive, right? I have to drive to the grocery store to get that. And my students don't always have those resources. So that's why, with the school garden, I really, really go hard to make sure that they have access and that they get exposure because, they're still young. So I feel like, even with my own children, they have the exposure that maybe my students don't have. And so being exposed to different vegetables, to different fruits, to seeing that a tomato from the vine tastes so different from the tomatoes that we get from the grocery store, so just exposure to different types of vegetables. A lot of them have never had Swiss chard, have never had, broccolini. So all of those things that are they're getting exposed to, I think is important. And so that's why my school garden at Terrence C. Valley and also my business of Thyme After Thyme is allowing people the exposure to grow their own food. And also seeds are cheap. Like you can buy a pack of lettuce seeds for $2. If you go to the grocery store, you're spending $3 and $4 for a salad in a bag that doesn't taste as good. And then you're also getting plastic that sometimes is not recyclable. It's like the most sustainable option is growing your own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so well put, and on so many levels. You're really sharing so many important areas for us to be thinking about. So let me ask you a question as a woman business owner, right? Because that's a whole nother path, that is layered, in here for you. What was it like to be able to get a business started for yourself? And has that been like, I know you said you really kind of kicked into gear during this COVID time, it gave
Yeah.
you space, to be able to focus on it. We have so many small business owners connected to the YWCA, so many programs that we help people kind of take their idea and bring it along to kind of kick it off into a business. So many women that have a side hustle, that
Right.
they have developed and at some point would love to transition it into being, their main gig. Tell us a little bit about your journey in setting up your business. I mean, obviously you picked something that was, off the beaten path for a woman, for a Black woman.
Definitely. Yeah.
Just being a woman-owned business and a woman of color-owned business, I know is a journey unto its own.
Yeah, so it definitely was not easy in the beginning because there, like you said, there's not many that look like me that are growing vegetables. If we look at the types of businesses that are in existence that are, smaller groups of minorities, most of them don't deal with gardening. So I knew that this was needed, but I knew that it wasn't common. And so um, it was an idea that I had, and the drive that kind of pushed me was that there are so many people that were home during the pandemic that really kind of kicked off gardening. They had really nothing else to do except get their home in order. And one of the things that they started doing was gardening. And they would reach out to me, and I would get all of these questions of how do I do this and how do I grow this and what do you think the best option is? And so, between that and then going to local nurseries and Home Depots and Lowe's and the big box stores and seeing options that were there. I like variety. Variety is the spice of life. And so I knew that there were different options out there. And that's kind of what sparked the idea of getting into agriculture, growing my own, and also just providing different options for people because there's more than just the Roma tomato. There's more than just the bell pepper. So I knew that people that are going to the big box stores may not know that. And so since I had the familiarity with it, there we go. It just kind of came as second nature. Has it been easy? No. because I have had, I wouldn't say issues, but in terms of the amount of funding that I receive, or even the amount that people are expecting I should charge for my consulting, I have found to be different, because there are coaches, like garden coaches, that are out there. But when I share my price and what I offer, I have had some kind of feedback in terms of, well, this person offers this, right? But you're getting something customized. So because you're getting something that's customized to your space, to your family, to what you want to grow, there is a price to pay. And I have seen the difference in terms of rates of African Americans and what they're charging and what people are expecting to pay, as opposed to others.
Mm-hmm. Well, I really appreciate you sharing your journey with us like that. It's so important for those watching to understand, and also to inspire, because we know that there are so many out there, whether it's to start a small business or whether it's to get into this area. So with that, so I know that the sun is starting to come out more and more these days. The weather is getting a little bit warmer. So for those of us that are thinking about gardening, what's some good easy things that we can contemplate to kick off if we're getting there?
So the best piece of advice that I can give is to start small. So though we see these pictures of like raised beds and these humongous harvests, like just start small. So there are locations where you can go to get the materials, and just start small. So grow bags, I love, because it's a cloth bag, and you can grow everything from tomatoes to cucumbers to collard greens to spinach. And the good thing about the grow bags is they're made of a felt material. It's breathable, so then you can move it from location to location. So if you're in an apartment and you're at a patio, if you are in a townhouse and you have a platform, if you have a deck, or even if you have a backyard, grow bags, I would say, are your best bet. You can purchase them online. They're relatively inexpensive. You can get 5 of them for $25. Get some good quality potting soil, preferably not the one that is yellow and green. Don't want to mention their names, but you want to get nice organic potting soil. And I would say the easiest one to start with is lettuce. So you literally just will take the soil, put it into your grow bag or put it into your pot. This lettuce seeds are very small, so just kind of do a sprinkle, 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 cover it and water it. And within a week, you will have lettuce greens. And the good thing about lettuce greens, and that's my actual favorite vegetable to grow, is they're cut and come again, which means that you're going to cut the outside layers of this lettuce head, cut them, use them in a salad, use them in your burger, and then after about a week or 2 weeks, they continue to grow again. So it's very rewarding to have something that you don't just pull out the ground and then you're done. Like, you can continue to harvest those vegetables for an entire month. And it's pretty no fail as long as you water it, right? So definitely water. As long as you keep, the soil and the seeds moist, they will grow. That's my best kind of starter vegetable that I love to kind of, because a lot of times when you want to grow tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers, those are also easy, but it takes a lot of maintenance and babying, because you have to get a cage and you have to prune them. But lettuce is easy, no fail, sprinkle, and you will have salad greens in a month.
That's great to know. It's funny, with all the gardens I've grown, I never grew lettuce. But so that's good to know. That's an easy and obviously it's something we eat. So, but I never really thought it seemed complicated.
Right. Now, if you're doing like a head of lettuce, that's like it's a process because you have to thin them out. But if you're doing like baby salad greens or even spinach, and you're doing like the baby greens, sprinkle, 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 soil on top, and that's it. And it's pretty easy. And I'm telling you, once you have had, salad or lettuce grown, and lettuce also likes cool weather. So if you're going to grow it, I would definitely suggest doing it now, because once it gets hot, the lettuce starts to wilt and it doesn't really taste as good. It actually starts to get very bitter. So in the fall, around October, and then in the spring, you can start it as early as April, between April and now, I would get started with the lettuce like tomorrow.
Wow. Well, that's good to know. And I
Yes,
love
it
the
likes
idea of those
cool
grow.
weather, cool
Yeah.
weather. So,
And
yeah.
I love those grow bag, that grow bag tip
Yes,
also.
grow
That's
bags are amazing for just mobility and ease, and they're breathable and they're great. You don't have to lug around like a huge pot. You can move it if, the location is not the best, if you find that you're not getting enough sunlight, or you want to move it off your deck and onto your ground. I mean, grow bags, you can grow sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, garlic. You can grow pretty much everything except for like a pumpkin or a watermelon, but you can grow pretty much anything in those grow bags. So yeah, I love them.
Well, I have to say it's so nice to know that there are agriculture and garden coaches out there, because again, I know that so many of us are interested in doing a garden but kind of get overwhelmed with what it all means, and I love the idea of getting some personalized support on thinking about like our family and our family's needs and growing and having a plan, because I think that having a positive experience with something makes you want to do it again. And
Right.
having someone like you with your expertise to be able to coach us through it will definitely make it a better experience.
Right. So then you're not traumatized because like
Yeah.
it didn't grow, or maybe it grew but it was like infested with bugs or something like that. So I try to make sure that it's a positive experience, and then kind of give I've been in your shoes, so to speak, so I know what kinds of bugs like what vegetables. I'm also in the process of becoming a Rutgers master gardener, so then that's another component in terms of being able to provide this advice and this expertise to my clients, so that I know specifically for North Jersey, for South Jersey, what problems we experience as opposed to someone living in California or somewhere else. So that's another piece that I provide to my clients. So
That's wonderful.
if you're
So
looking
you
for
just
a client,
mentioned becoming a master gardener with the Rutgers program. And I know that we talked about your long-term plan is to have your own farm, but what's next for Time After Time? What are you working on right now? It sounds like you're that degree
right.
and that.
Yeah. So the Rutgers Masters Gardeners Program is based out of different counties. Bergen County specifically, their office is in Hackensack, and they pretty much provide advice to different residents of North Jersey. So that's another option that people have if you contact the Rutgers Masters website and you want to get advice in terms of locations and where you live and what grows best. So in terms of Time After Time, we've segued. We first kind of started off with just selling vegetable seedlings. So we would do like delivery. So think of like we were the Uber Eats, but instead of the eating part, we were delivering, vegetable seedlings. So it was a convenience for people that, and again, it worked out last year, definitely, because last year people weren't really trying to go anywhere, right, because of COVID. So I would pack up my car and pack up my truck and deliver vegetable seedlings or soil or whatever it is that you needed for your garden. And then you were kind of on your way. And now we've segued into the garden consulting piece. So I'm definitely trying to expand more. There's actually a couple of restaurants that I've reached out to that I saw they have a gardening space, or they have the option for gardening and growing and then using those vegetables, those herbs in their foods. So I'm trying to segue into expanding the consulting aspect to be able to provide restaurants in North Jersey that would like to maybe have an outdoor space to grow some vegetables and then use those vegetables or use those herbs in the meals that they're cooking. So if you are a restaurant and you are interested, let me know.
I love that. You heard that, folks. You heard that. Connect, Jahari. The other thing too, I was thinking as you were talking on Share the Mic Now a while ago now, we had Nicole Davis, who I don't know if you know Nicole, but she's with
Yes.
Center for Food Action, and I know that they have a garden as well. That they've.
I have yet to visit that location. That's like one on my to-do list for the summer. Yes,
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a place that you two should be connected and working together with your great skills and their amazing program. That
definitely.
sounds like a win-win all around.
Yes,
Folks, for those of you watching, YWTV is all about, giving you an opportunity to, help spread the word. So this is your opportunity to do that. Definitely connect with Jahari on her IG at Thyme After Thyme NJ. I did it as I was sitting here, so I'm following her now. And follow her on her. Go check out her website and learn more about her services and her opportunity to help you become your own master gardener of your own garden in your yard. And create healthy options for your family and for yourself by doing that. And this is a great way for you to think about something you learned today in this conversation and share it with someone in your life and encourage them to connect to Jahari as well. And you can easily share this conversation with someone that you wish had watched it with you. By copying the link through Facebook where it will live, or our YouTube channel, and text the link to someone, send it to them on Messenger, share it onto your Facebook page. It's a great opportunity to spread the word and this conversation. And Jahari gave us so much to think about too. Not only did we get to learn about her business and her life, but there was definitely a lot for no pun intended. I was going to say food for thought. For us to think about the importance to support more women and more women of color specifically to be getting into this work and following Jahari's footsteps. And I'm so grateful that we have you as a model for women and for Black women and girls to be able to see that this is a possibility for them and a place and space for them that you are really forging the way.
I'm trying to show it is attainable. So that's my goal.
Yes. Well, we thank you for sharing your story. And for those of you watching, we encourage you to join us next week where we'll have many new episodes of YWTV and great conversations as well. We also want to make sure, if you were watching YWTV earlier this week, we want to make sure that on May 20th, you sign up for our Stand Up Against Street Harassment Bystander Intervention training. It's free of charge to everyone and anyone in our communities. And because it's virtual, you could really be anywhere. You just have to use the link. We have it here. For 1 hour during this training, you'll get clear, adaptable, expert-approved tools that will help you be able to successfully and safely intervene if you see an act of racism, if you see an act of gender violence, some way to be able to support and be an ally in a very, very active and safe way. So we are encouraging everyone to take that step, register, and schedule that 1 hour in your time next week. For those of you that are job seeking, any of the women in our community that are job seeking, either you're unemployed or underemployed and have been impacted, especially over this last year through COVID, we encourage you to connect to our Next Chapter program. There's no charge. There's our job coach and also so many wonderful programs that she is bringing to our Next Chapter participants to help them with their job searches. So we do encourage you to sign on there. We have an event that's coming up on May 19th about time management and balancing, which we know right now is kind of hard when you're working virtually. The day never ends, right?
Never. It just kind of feeds into the next day, into the next, and you're like, oh wait, it's Sunday and the week is over, and then it's like back to the grind again. Yeah,
I agree. And being women and all the different roles that we have, they just kind of blur into each other throughout the day. That you play one, play the other, and go back and forth. So we'll have Michelle Delgado, who will be joining us from Heart Metrics Consulting and Coaching to give us some tips around that. And tomorrow, for those of you that are interested, we have Mindfulness at Any Age on our Friendship Friday program from 11:30 to 12:30 a.m. Roseanne Riley, who is a phenomenal yoga and mindfulness instructor, does such great work for our program for many years now. We'll be discussing ways that you can alleviate physical ailments and improve your mental health, which we could all use the lift right now. We're all carrying a lot for sure. And so with that, we wish everyone a great afternoon. We thank you so much, Jahari, for sharing your story with us. And so excited to be following you and see all the great things that you're doing. And as I start to think about my garden, I'm going to be thinking about lettuce, grow bag, and reach out, with more questions for sure. Yes. So thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.